Vogue Knitting, the Ultimate Knitting Book by the editors of Vogue Knitting magazine. This book I purchased at, I was well beyond a beginner and into sort of the beginning intermediate level, and I was looking for something that was giving me more than just beginning level instructions. And this hit the mark for me. So this also is very interesting because there's a section in there on the history of knitting, which I did not know. There's a section in there on knitting supplies. There's the basic techniques in there, from how-to for beginners to very specialized applications for more experienced knitters. There's a section that explains like knitting instructions in a book. So if you're not understanding symbols or abbreviations, there's something in there. A section on doing circular, double pointed knitting, color knitting, intarsia knitting, mosaic knitting. A section on professional blocking, assembly, and finishing techniques and tricks, as well as a stitch dictionary. So for the beginning knitter, yes, there definitely is good material in here for you, such as this section on binding off. What I do like about this book, it gives a very simple explanation of how to do the bind off, and then it has a photograph of what the bind off looks like. So when I'm doing my knitting and I'm trying to decide, this is maybe you're just beyond the beginner here, and you're wanting to bind off and you don't like the look of the basic knit bind off, and you go, I need something that's a little better, maybe is a bit of a looser bind off than what I'm used to. Where this book is great, it will show you, see I have a little asterisk there, I was using this bind off for some project. So it'll give an explanation about what this bind off is. For example, this one is great if you have a tendency to bind off too tightly. So this would be a good substitution called the suspended bind off. And then it's got a very simple explanation of how to do it. So the illustrations are very good with the explanations inside. Good. This one, there is definitely a beginner could definitely use this book, but I have to say this one really is more for just beyond the beginner, and you're getting into a little more advanced things, and you're needing some guidance. Where I love this book was it shows you all kinds of stitching and stitches, and for somebody like myself that I'm designing a scarf or a sweater, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what stitch do I want to do? I want my sweater to be pretty. I want it to have, I don't know, what do I want it to look like? So it has what certain stitches look like, such as the berry stitch or berry in a box stitch, or the flower garden stitch, and how do you make it? So it tells you what you need if you're designing your own sweater, what you need in terms of the number of stitches to make this particular pattern, and then how to make it. So this is more for the advanced knitter, intermediate advanced knitter. If you're just wanting to slightly alter a pattern, like say you're making a baby sweater and you've got a basic stockinette stitch pattern, and you want to embellish the sweater a little bit, and you don't just want it to be plain, you want it to have some kind of nice little design on it. Like maybe you instead want it to look like this, you want it to have the basket stitch. So this would show you how you make that stitch. So it is a very good book. There is material in here for the beginner, but I tend to say this one is more for you just beyond beginner. You're starting to experiment into garments, and you're needing to know how to shape pieces, and increasing and decreasing and short row shaping, and you don't know how to do any of that. You haven't done it before. It shows you how, it explains how to do it, and it shows you how to do it. And for myself, I have learned a lot from this book, especially when it gets into the finishing. So a good reference for the beginning knitter, but I would say more the advanced beginner into intermediate knitter. The Ultimate Knitting Book.